Hello friends! Welcome to Coding Garden with CJ. Welcome to Throwback Thursday! It's a random idea I had, but I thought I'd build something that if you've been on the internet for a while, you're probably familiar with. I want to build a visitor hit counter. So if you remember back in the day, every website used to have one. It's basically like an image on the page that showed the number of unique visitors. So I thought I'd build one from scratch, and we'll see what happens. Let's say hello to all the wonderful people in the chat. Hello, Daniel. Welcome to the stream. Hello, Justin and Joshua and Alka. Welcome, welcome. Hello, Andrew Lane. And hello, Christopher, who is here for their first live stream. Awesome. Welcome. Hello, Wally Oxen. And hello, Senkar. Welcome to the stream. Yeah, so I just had this idea randomly. Maybe this will be a regular thing. Like every Thursday, I'll build something retro or old or something like that. But the main idea here is we're going to create an embeddable image that displays the number of visitors to a web page, or the number of visitors that have seen that image. Ideally, that image would have been embedded on a web page. Hello, Ross. Welcome to the stream. So the plan is to first design our database, because we are going to need to actually store some data. I don't plan to have user sign up or anything like that. Basically, when you create a counter, you'll get some sort of unique code that you can use to update it, but you won't need to create an account or anything like that. So we'll have our counters table. You'll be able to customize it in terms of background color, width, height, font size, the font to use, max length, like the number of characters to show. And then we'll also have a visitors table where we'll store every visit or every view of this image in that table. For those of you that are not familiar with hit counters, I just searched for website hit counter on images. Anyone remember these things? They used to be embedded like on eBay pages or like on GeoCity pages. You'd see them at the bottom. So that's basically what we're gonna build. We're gonna build like a modern version of that. I do have this SVG that I'm going to be using and modifying to create our hit counter, and it looks like this, but we'll be able to modify the total length, so how many max digits should be able to be displayed on here, background color, font color, all that good stuff. Elka says, I do remember them. I know these words. Awesome. Retro old? Yeah. Hello, Everton. Welcome to the stream. And hello, Prescott. Daniel's saying, would love to see this in Node. I used to make these in PHP. Now, when I was planning this, I looked into PHP because like it's what people used to use all the time, and I don't think I could build it in 2 hours with PHP. Mainly because I'm not used. I don't know it. I could figure it out, but it'd probably take a while. So I am going to use node.js and all the tech that I'm mostly familiar with. However, if I do get to actually building a UI, because for the most part I'm just going to be building the API to get this thing working, but if I do build a UI, I'm going to have people vote on what I should use, and I might use something like Knockout.js or Backbone or jQuery or like Angular 1, something like really old, and we'll build the UI with that. We'll vote later if we get to that point, so that'll be fun. Yes. Hello, Christopher Fitzgerald. Welcome to the stream. Okay, so let's do it. The first thing I'm going to do is kind of design the database, and then we will, whoever is watching, take a vote on which database I should use, either MongoDB, Postgres, or MySQL. But for now, just in general, let's design the database. It's really just going to be 2 tables, but let's talk about that. For that, I'm going to use this thing called Lucidchart, and I've already added the entity relationship diagram items to here. So we'll do that. We're definitely going to need an entity called counter. So every counter that gets created will have an entry in this table. It will have an ID. It's going to be some sort of unique auto-incrementing or auto-generated ID. We also want a secret key. So we'll generate the secret key whenever this thing gets created. And later on, if you want to update the counter, you have to know what the secret key is. So this will just be text. And this gets around us having to have like user accounts or anything like that. As long as you know what the secret key is, you can update a counter. We'll have font family. It will be text. Let's add some rows. We'll have font color. Will also be text. We'll have background. color, which will be text. We'll have width and height. I guess width, we'll make it a number. Height will be a number. Font size. This will be, I guess we'll make it a number. And this will be in pixels. Let's move this row to like there. Cool. And then max length. So that's the max number of digits to show in the counter. So we'll also have that. This will be a number. Cool. Yes, and Alka asked, are you building a service for visitor counters? Essentially, so if I deploy this thing, then anyone would be able to go to the site, create a unique counter, and then embed it on a website. That's the idea. That's the plan. And hello, Sean. Welcome to the stream. Yeah, the job is going well. We're wrapping up a project right now, and I'm coding away. It's a lot of fun. And hello, Chandra. Says it's 9 a.m., 9 in the morning in India. That's awesome. Cool. Okay, so this is our counter table, and then the other thing we're going to be storing are the visits to a specific counter. So we'll call this visitor. And what I'm thinking here is a visitor will have a unique ID and then the counter ID that they're associated with. So a visitor could potentially visit multiple different counter IDs, and they would have multiple entries in the database for each different counter that they visit. And so counter ID is going to tie back to the counter table. So they have an ID. This is like object ID. They have counter ID, and this is also an object ID, but this links back to the counter table. So in entity relationship terms, this is a one-to-many relationship. So one counter can have many visitors. Yeah, that's what this little icon means there, or the symbol means. We can have a date time of, I guess, like last visit date time. We could potentially store like every single visit of a user. We would end up having a whole lot of data in our database. So I think what we'll do is for each unique user of a counter, we'll store the date and the time that they visited, the last visited, and how many times they have visited this specific counter. So we'll have last visited. This will be a date time. And visit count. And this will just be a number. So this is how many times they have visited that specific counter. And I think this is as complex as our database needs to be. And we can pretty much implement this in any database that we choose. But that's the plan. Cool. Hello, gaming, but not really. Welcome to the stream. Jaquino is asking, what kind of keyboard do I use? Actually, do I have it on my... If you go to coding.garden/gear, I have a list of all the gear I use. I don't know if my keyboard is here. My keyboard is not here. It is a mechanical keyboard, but it is not anything special. This. Yeah, nothing special. Daniel Garden is asking, what about IP? Are you going to do it based on IP? I plan to do it based on a cookie. So the counter will set a cookie in the user's browser, and that will uniquely identify that user. So if a user visits on their phone and their laptop, but they're on the same network, they'll be uniquely identified. I could do IP address. I also don't want to accidentally leak my own IP address. That wouldn't be good. So I'm just going to stick with like using a cookie to uniquely identify users. Yeah. And Christopher is asking, so this is like a visual representation of how a database will look like. Yes, so we call these entities. They essentially describe each of our tables in our database or each of our document stores in our database. So if we did this with Mongo, we'd have a document store called counter and a document store called visitor. If we did this with the SQL database, we'd have a table called counter and a table called visitor. Okay, that is that. I'm going to set up the server, but while I set up the server, think to yourself, what database should I use? Should I use MongoDB, Postgres, or MySQL? And you can just throw your suggestion in the chat, and we'll see what comes of it. Okay, but in the meantime, I will set up the server. So, and I am going to be using node.js. I mentioned that earlier. So let's create a server directory. In the server directory, I'm just going to create a basic Express app. I'm not going to use any sort of generator or anything like that because it's just going to have a few routes. So this is all we need. Let's init it. We're going to install Express. We'll install nodemon as a dev dependency. And we can install other things later. For now, let's just get a basic Express app going. Okay. In the server directory, let's create our index.js file, and let's get it going. So we need to bring in Express. We'll create an app. We will get our port, which either comes from an environment variable, and we'll default it to port 5000, and then we will listen on that port. Whoa. Like that. And we'll just, for now, create a basic get route. And we'll just respond with a JSON response and a message. Hello, world. That one. Cool. Let's go ahead and install nodemon so that thing will auto restart. We'll install it as a dev dependency. Is that the way to do it? Is that the shorthand to do it? Maybe it is. Let's see. --dev. So this should put it in dev dependencies. Oh, okay. --dev is deprecated. Use -- only equals dev. But it's still, no, it didn't work. Let's move it to a dev dependency. Or not. You know what? I think we need -- save dev. Maybe I'm too used to Yarn, because I think in Yarn it's -- dev. -d with the updated npm. Did that work? That worked. Weird. Okay, let's take a stretch. Yeah, I've been using Yarn at work, so I'm not familiar with I don't remember how the latest node npm works. Cool. So there's that, and then let's create some start scripts. So our start will just be node index.js, and our dev script will be nodemon index.js. Cool. And then we'll start it up, npm run dev. We now have a server, and it says hello world. Cool. -d. And then Alka made a little happy face. Let's look at the chat, see what people are saying. So, got one vote for MySQL. Hello, Hal. Welcome to the stream. I'm doing pretty good. MySQL, MongoDB, MySQL. Never heard of Postgres, MySQL, because it's old school. That's why I put it on the list, because that's what people used to use all the time. Hello, Vias. Welcome to the stream. Vote for Mongo, Postgres, Mongo. MySQL, Mongo. I'm gonna have to pull these chats in, and we'll like tally it up. Yes, and El Barate loves cookies. We're gonna have some cookies on the show tonight. MySQL, Mongo, please. Okay, well, I think, where am I at in my checklist? If it's time, so yeah, I mean, we have our basic server, so yeah, let's figure this out. I'm gonna create, do I have Scratch? No. Yeah, get your votes in. I'll give you 1 more minute to get all of your votes in. And then and then I'll parse all of the messages and see what the votes are. I could have used like a polling app or something like that. Oh well, it's fine. It's fine. I did make a voting app, but that required you to log in with Google. It's not that easy. Could do a straw poll. I'm just gonna use the chat. I could end up spending like 10 minutes just trying to parse the messages. Okay. Votes are in. I used a Lucid chart for designing the database. It's called Lucid chart. Oh, and Anthony with the super chat, and he voted for MySQL. So the $2 super chat. Thanks so much, Anthony. I think you might see it on my screen pretty soon. Nunu is saying, Mongo, please show us how joins work on a NoSQL database. Really, we probably wouldn't be doing joins. We would just be querying the other table using the ID from the other table. So, but okay. Yeah, and there's the super chat. Thanks, Anthony. Appreciate that. Okay, I'm going to copy all of these messages and then attempt to parse it in 5 minutes or less. Okay, here we go. I am going to set a timer because if I if I spend too long trying to parse these comments, that would not be good. Okay, so these are the chats. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to save this as a text file. And then I'm going to write a node.js script that reads it in, and then on every line, it'll search for either MySQL, Mongo, or Postgres. If it finds an instance of that, that thing gets 1 vote. Okay. So we'll bring in fs, which is the file system. And then we'll do fs.read file. We give it the path. We want chats.text. Encoding, I think we do like UTF-8. And then we have our callback, which has the error and the data. So if we just log data, we should see that file. Cool. Okay, so we're reading in the file. We need a place to store the votes. So let's say Postgres is starts off at 0, MySQL 0, and Mongo 0. And here's what we'll do. We'll say data.split on new line. Wait, is it? No, it's that. So split it on new lines. And then for each line, I could be like tricky with this. I'm just gonna be like very verbose. So let's say if line dot includes Postgres, then we'll say votes at dot Postgres plus plus. Let's just see what that does, and then we'll log votes. Hey, wait, that's not right. Oh, I have to 2 lowercase it. So we'll do line dot 2 lowercase includes Postgres. Okay, 7 votes for Postgres. We do else if line includes MySQL, else if line includes Mongo. I'm getting suggestions for how I can do this in the chat. There we go. Okay, so we have 7 votes for Postgres, 17 for MySQL, and 13 for Mongo. How did I copy all of it? We can look at it. So I basically just I dragged all of the chats. You can see when it pasted it, like there is no space between the username and the chat itself. But because I'm just saying if it includes that, that should still count. So that's a vote for MySQL. That's a vote for Mongo. That's a vote for MySQL. Yeah, let me see if anyone is disagreeing with. I'll let you see the code. Let me see if anyone disagrees with how I calculated this. Yeah, I guess that's true. If somebody misspelled it, then it didn't count. Oh well. Kelly's making a good point. Search for MariaDB and include it with MySQL because MariaDB is like the open source version of it. We'll just search for Maria. No extra hits. Spoilers, it's Mongo. Oh, I like that, Andrew. So Andrew Lane did a regular expression that would give you the matched word and then just increment it automatically. Oh, good call, Alka. Did I deal with duplicate users? No, I didn't. Ugh. Oh, and a super chat from Justin. Just because you're awesome, but you should definitely use Mongo. Appreciate that, Justin. No, I did not deal with duplicate users. Ugh. Okay. How long have I spent doing this? I spent 5 minutes doing that. Let's just use a legitimate poll taker thing. What have I used in the past? Poll anywhere, I think I've used. Let me hide my screen. Poll everywhere? So you, should I? Okay. Should I do a legitimate poll, or should we just say that MySQL won? I know there are a lot of fans of Mongo out there. I don't want to do a disservice. We're gonna do a poll. We're gonna do a poll. Straw poll, is that a thing? Create instant real-time polls for here. For free. Which DB? We'll say Mongo, Postgres, MySQL, or MariaDB. IP duplication checking. Okay. Create a poll. I think I've done it. I know that you can't see my screen. Okay. Here we go. Just in case anyone misses the poll. Oh, James Ross has a vote for Microsoft Access. Hello, James Ross. It's been a while. Einbisian says, MySQL won the popular vote, but Mongo won the electoral colleges. It hits too close to home. Okay. Alka says, I definitely think Postgres won. Okay, let's give everyone one more minute to vote. We definitely spent way too much time on this. Like, or just, yeah, way too much time. Oh, Firestore, Firebase? No, I definitely want to use one of these three. Hmm? What if? Now, that would be way too hard, but we could store the counters in Mongo and the visitors in MySQL? No, that'd be crazy. I think MySQL is the clear winner here. All right. I appreciate all of the super chats. And I think both of the super chats both said Mongo, but the overwhelming majority wants to go with MySQL, so we'll do that. Soon, very soon, I'll do another video. We'll do Mongo just for those of you that voted for it. But yeah, okay, let's do it. So I don't know if I have Mongo, if I have MySQL installed locally. Let me delete this stuff. But let's see. MySQL. Now, so I know you can install it with brew. Brew install MySQL. I could also like set up a Docker container or something like that, but I'm just going to use this. If you're on a Mac, this is the easiest way to do it. Yeah. Yeah, Carlos says, I think NoSQL DBs are useful in very specific cases. It is true. There's a use for either of them. With really small applications like this, it doesn't really matter as much because it's only a couple of tables. But when you start getting 10, 15, 20 tables with interconnected relationships between them, SQL is probably the way to go. Okay. I believe I can do brew services start MySQL. And then MySQL-u root. We're in. Okay, so I've got SQL running on my machine. Exit. Quick break. Quit. Oh, cool. I guessed that. That's nice. Okay. To connect to this database, I'm going to use a library called Connects, mainly because I'm familiar with it. So Connects is a query building library. Yeah, a batteries included multi-dialect. So you could write code with Connects, and it'll actually work for a whole number of SQL databases. And yeah, I think we'll use this. So let's do it. Let's go into the server folder. We'll install Connects, and I think we need to install the driver for the database that we're using. In this case, it's MySQL. Let's check out their website. So I want MySQL. Yeah, so I'm going to install Connects, and then I'm going to install MySQL so that Connects can talk to MySQL. And MySQL is a package on NPM. We can check it out. It's a database driver for node.js to talk to MySQL. So like this is the lower level library for talking directly to MySQL, and then Connects is written on top of that to make it a little bit easier. Okay, so we have both of those. And then I think we need to start doing some init. What if I do npx connects init? Okay. it created a connects file in here. So this is our connection to the database. I think for now, we really will just have a development environment. There's all sorts of options in here, but yeah, I think we want to do something like this. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of all this. We're just going to have a development connection. The database, let's call this hit counter. I think username is root, and by default, there's no password. It's extremely insecure, but it's just running local on my machine, so that's okay for now. And the client is MySQL. I need to create this database, so how do I do that? MySQL admin create user root. Oh, okay. So when you install MySQL, it installs this command called MySQL admin. Create is the command to create a database. I want to create the database called hit counter, and I just did that as the root user. So I think if I do MySQL with the root user, I'm just guessing. I should probably look this up, but I'm just guessing. Connect to hit counter. Hey, look at that. So current database. I kind of don't like the fact that all these guesses are actually working, but that's great. So we have a database on our machine called hit counter, and then this tells connects how to connect to it. That's great. Now we want to create some tables. So in the connects world, those are known as migrations. Let's just run the connects command. Connects help. npx connects help. Yeah, so we can create a migration. So we'll do connects migrate make and then the name of the migration. So I want to create a migration for the counter table. So I'm going to create a migration that specifically will be for creating the counter table. Okay, let's do it. Connect npx connects migrate make counter. Okay, that creates a migrations folder, and then this is a file where we can describe the table that we're going to be building. Let's look at some examples. Create table. Yeah, so connects.schema.create table. In this case, we're going to create the counter table. We say table.increments. That'll automatically give it an auto-incrementing ID. And then let's do this and this. Okay, so we want a secret key column. Table.string will create I think a varchar column, but let's look at their docs. Yeah, so table.text creates a text with optional text type for MySQL, text data type preference. Text type may be medium text or long text, otherwise defaults to text. String defaults to length 255. How long do we want this to be? Secret key. Let's just default it to 255. It should we won't have it any longer than that. Let's do table.string font family. And I don't know, max 100 length. Like how many fonts are longer than 100 length? Font color. Let's do max length of 50. Font size. Font size is not a string. This is a number. We can look at our number types that we have available. I think there's like float, decimal, for the font size, we probably don't want that to have really any decimals in it. Actually, I think if we stored it as a byte, is that a thing? We do integer. Yeah, integer, because we just want it to be a whole number. That's the one. So we'll do table.integer font size. And then background color will be a string. I think, again, we'll limit that to 50 characters. Width will also make an integer. And height will also be an integer. And then max length will also be an integer. I'm curious if we can do like max gets the maximum value. No, so this is for querying. I'm curious if I can, in my table description, like give it like a default max size. I can't. Oh well. Okay, so this is our table. Let's catch up on the chat because I see that it's going crazy. Okay, catching up. Yep. Question from Brandon Myers. When you're doing personal projects, do you use tests, continuous integration, types, readmes? It really depends. I will say that I don't write a lot of tests, and typically if I'm the only person on the project, I don't do things like continuous integration because it's easy enough for me to just run the deploy commands. So the answer to that is in personal projects, no. It's the Wild West in personal projects for me. Oh, hello, Andy. Welcome to the stream. It's been a while. Okay, we're talking about the K'NEX toy. El Barate is saying, don't you need an ODBC setup for this? I believe the MySQL driver that I installed is the connector for it. So that's pretty much all I need. Oh, hey, RabbitWorks. RabbitWorks is streaming live right now. Check out his channel. Kelly Murphy is saying, I'm an InfoSec engineer. No password hurts me. Yeah, I guess we could hash the secret key if we do want to be secure, but the idea here is if you know what the secret key is, you can update the specific counter. That's the security of this system. But we could hash it. That would make it a bit more secure. Meyer is saying no SQLize. No, we could. I like K'NEX just because it's like simple SQL queries. We don't have to mess around with models or anything like that. Andy is asking, how am I seeing that ERD? I actually made this earlier in the stream, but I'm using a tool called Lucidchart, which I used to make it. Andrew Lane is saying, if font color is hex, you don't need more than 9. That's a good point. I was thinking they could even do things like red, blue, but let's ensure that it's a hex. I like your thinking. Let's make it 9. Same thing for background color. Yeah, and so Christopher is saying, I think if you run this on a server, you can't access SQL only locally. Yeah, so locally, I'm connecting to my MySQL database, but if I deploy this thing, I will need a deployed SQL server that this can talk to, which I most likely will get to. Okay, so this is our table. The idea with migrations is this migration happens, if I run this migration, it will do this. You can actually undo migrations, and the opposite of creating a table is drop table. So we will do that here. Don't forget the return, but here in the down, we'll return connects.schema.dropTableCounter. We don't need the promise thingy. Okay. Yeah, it's a good point, Joshua Ferris. So Joshua Ferris is saying, is there really a font family that needs 100 characters? I don't know. I'm just doing it to be safe. Like, I'm thinking we're just gonna have like default fonts that are supported on the web, like the names of them. Yeah, let's go with 50 characters. Sure. Okay. Timestamps creates 2 columns, I believe, created at and updated at. We'll probably have to update those manually, but let's do it. So I've created this migration. Now we want to run it to actually create the tables in the database. Sean is recommending drop table if exists. I will do that. One thing you can run into is if you roll back a migration and the table didn't exist, it would fail. But both of those methods are available in here. You have drop table if exists, and you also have drop table. Yeah, but it's better to use drop table if exists. Cool. ICKiller YT is asking what library is that? This is Connects. I'm using this connectsjs.org. Alka says, you should use my font called This Is My Really Cool Font Family that I made. Go install it and check it out. Hit me up on Twitter. Wait, is that the whole name of it? How many characters is that? Length 100. Did you do that on purpose? Yeah, I think we should be good with 50. Cool. Okay, so we have our migration. Let's actually create the table in the database. So we'll do npx connects migrate latest. And what this will do is it will use the connects file to connect to the development database and connect to this database called hit counter. And it will then create this table called counter. Go! Oh no! Error not supported off mode. Client does not support authentication protocol requested by the server. Consider upgrading the MySQL client. Well. Let's see how they have done this before. I might have to set a password for the root user because right now there is no password. Client. User password database. Yes, let's not forget the host. So, got host, database, user. I may have to set a password. We'll see in a second. But by setting the host, let's see if that did anything. It didn't. Okay, let's Google this error. Or search it at least. Password with a blank string. I tried to set insecure auth to true. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. We're going to drop down. And it's okay to do this because it's all locally. You would never want to do this like on a production database because then any user could log in as root without a password. You obviously don't want to do that. We're just running this locally, so that's fine for now. When I deploy, I'll show you like how I create that remote database, and that has a secure connection and secure username and password and all that good stuff. So we connect to MySQL. We use the MySQL database. We then run this command. You have an error in your SQL syntax. Really? Yeah, I could add a password, but I don't have a password. Okay, let's set the password. So MySQL user set password. Change user password. Alter user username at localhost identified by MySQL database server versions 5.76 or newer. Okay, we're gonna go with this. Like that. So alter user root at local identified by the password coding garden. Operation alter user failed for root. What? Daniel is saying, in my connection fig, do password empty string. The Stack Overflow post that or GitHub issue that I was looking at said they did that. So, and that's why they were getting that. But let's try it. And do I even need the host? Same issue. I need to set the root password. How to set the root password? Windows systems. Unix and Unix-like systems. Oh, maybe I had to use localhost instead of 127.0.0.1. Okay. Moment of truth. Yeah! Okay, so now my user has a password, coding garden. We'll put that there. And let's run the migrations. That did not work. Wait. Yeah, because now if I try to connect as user root, it wants the password. So let's get. So the password did get updated. Yeah, and that was the moment CJ regretted not using Mongo. It's okay. We'll figure it out. We would be done if we were using Mongo right now. Yeah, so they're doing a similar thing. I tried to set insecure auth to true, but no changes. Curious why that won't work. This is from 2016. Let's look at this Stack Overflow post. If you want an empty password, you should set the password to null and not use the password hash function as such. Let's try this. Set the password to null, flush the privileges, and then quit. Okay. And then now we give it no password. We're gonna figure this out. We're gonna figure this out. Okay, let's set a timer. If I cannot figure this out, because I've already been spinning my wheels, if I can't figure this out in 7 minutes, we'll switch to Mongo. But I'm gonna figure it out. Way to go for 5.7. So connect is the root user. Oh. I just set the password to null. How do I log in with a null password? Oh, it didn't update the password. Weird. Okay. So let's use MySQL. That doesn't work. This is the one, but that command isn't working for me. Which version of MySQL am I using? Yeah, I'm using version 8. Okay. For MySQL, just set password for root. Okay. Nope, nope, nope. Yeah, Zimba's saying I could just make a Docker container and set a password in the environment variables. I'd probably be done now if I just did that. Okay, let's search this a little bit more. And we know now that we're using MySQL version 8. I think this is the winner. Okay. Now my password is coding garden. I'm gonna play a sound. Okay, so I think the key here was searching specifically for version 8 because that's what I was using, and then the top answer, the difference in those other answers is this is saying MySQL native password, which is interesting. This worked for me. Don't forget to flush the privileges. I did not flush the privileges, and it worked. Crowd goes wild. Okay, so how do we know it worked? Now, if we log into the DB, and then we use hit counter. Okay, I don't know what are the commands to list the tables? MySQL list tables. Show tables. Okay, so we have one table called counter, and that's what I described in this migration. Cool. How can we describe a table? Get a MySQL table structure with describe. Describe counter. Cool. Okay, so this is my longer break timer, but when I describe it, it shows me that inside the database it actually created it. Yeah, so people are saying make sure you upvote that that Stack Overflow answer. I am not I don't know if I'm ever logged into Stack Overflow. I guess that's I'm doing a disservice to wait, is this the right one? Yeah. Upvote. I'm not logged in, but I'll bookmark this and upvote it later. Definitely. Cool. So we have a table in our database. I think you'll notice this is saying all of these are allowed to be null. I am not going to allow them to be null. So I'm actually going to update my migration so that you cannot insert these things as null in the database. They actually have to have a value. So we're going to do connects migrate roll back. So that will run this, which will drop the table. So that dropped the table, but then I want to update this. I think it's like not nullable. Let's look in the connect docs. Yeah, not nullable. So secret key can't be null. Font family can't be null. Font color cannot be null. Font size cannot be null. All the things. There we go. And then let's run it again. So that ran. Let's connect, use, hit counter, describe counter, and now these do not allow null. Created at and updated at do allow null. Can I add that on there? Roll back, and then do the latest. Oh no! Cannot read property, not nullable of undefined. So times, oh well. I guess we'll leave it. Okay, cool. Let me catch up on the chat, see if I missed anything. Oh, Anthony says, I was about to share the SQL from that exact Stack Exchange page. We figured it out. We figured it out. It took us a while, but we figured it out. Okay, so we have the counter table. Now let's create the other table. It should go way smoother because we already have this. We're going to create this visitor table. So in here, I'll do connects, migrate, make. And we'll call this visitor. Okay. And now in the migrations folder, we now have a visitor table, and we'll create that. So it's going to look very similar to this. But this is the visitor table. We have the counter ID, which is going to link back to the counter table. So we'll do table.integer counter ID. And this is unsigned because it must be a positive integer. And references ID in table counter, I think. Let's look at the docs here. References. Sets the column that the current column references as a foreign key. And then in table. Yeah, so that should do it. So what this line right here is going to do is it will create a column, an integer, unsigned integer column in this table called counter ID that references the ID column in the counter table. So this is the foreign key relationship that connects these two tables together. I should probably do not nullable as well. Yep. And I think I can do something like on delete cascade. So that way, because these two things are related, if I were ever to try to delete a counter that had some references in the visitor table, it would throw some errors. So if I do on delete cascade, that means if I ever delete a counter from the counter table, all of its reference rows in the visitor table would automatically be deleted. That. Okay. So that is our counter ID. We want visit count, which is going to be a positive integer. And it defaults to 0. So initially, the visit count for that visitor is 0. Okay. Connects default to. I think I might have gotten that wrong. Yeah, default to, that's what I want. So instead of default, I want default to. Sean is mentioning you can do timestamps true, true. I missed that. Maybe I'll do that just so that they're not nullable. Is foreign a thing? Adds a foreign key constraint to a table for an existing column. So table.foreign reference. Okay, so instead of doing like an unsigned integer or not nullable integer, we'll do foreign. Is that the way to go? We'll run this and see what it generates. One thing I will do though is let's roll back, and then we'll set our timestamps to be not nullable. So let's do migrate rollback. If I do true, true, use timestamp type, make default now. Oh, that's for the. Setting each to date time types. When true is passed as the first argument, a timestamp type is used instead. Both columns default to being not null and using the current timestamp when true is passed as the second argument. Default to now. When true is passed as the first argument, a timestamp type is used instead. I think I want a date time, not a time. I think I'm going to pass in false here. And then true for the other one, so it defaults. Zimba is saying I need the unsigned integer and the foreign. Oh, okay. Wait, I've never used the foreign before, but let's take a look. Not that. Where are we? That. if I do this, then where does the integer go? Like that? Oh, I see. It's 2 lines. I see, I see. So you have here and then, okay, it's not all in 1 line. I see, I see. So table.integer counter ID is unsigned and table.foreign with counter ID references ID in table counter. That's the winner. Let's also do not nullable here. So it has to have something. Okay, I think we're ready. Let's run these migrations. Okay, and let's look at it. So if we describe counter, cool. So now, let's make this a little bigger. Now timestamps will default to the current timestamp and they cannot be null. That's great. And if we describe visitor, ID is integer unsigned. Counter ID is an unsigned integer, and it is a foreign key. I think I think we did it. Yeah, I think we did it. Is that all I had for the other table? Oh, last visited. I forgot to add that. Okay. One last time. Let's roll back. Now, I will say, when you're initially creating a database with something like Connects, you can roll back all you want. But eventually, once you've built on this app a lot, you wouldn't want to roll back. You'd actually want to create new migrations. But because I'm just figuring out these tables, it's okay to just roll back and recreate them. Yeah, so we have visit count, and then let's do date, time, last visited. And let's double check that date time is a thing. Yeah, table.datetime. Cool. What do you call when Skeletor has someone over? A visitor. Thanks for that one, Alka. Okay, so we have last visited. I think we're good to go. One last migrate. And then we will describe the visitor table. Okay, we have last visited, date, time. Whew. That took way longer than expected, but we're there. We have a MySQL database. It has 2 tables in it. I think we're ready. Okay. If we look at our checklist, we decided on a database and we decided on MySQL. We created the tables. Now we actually need to set up the database connection. We haven't done that yet, so let's do that. Here in the server folder, I'm going to create a new file and call it db.js. I'll require in the connects file. I'll get the environment, like from the current environment that we're running in. Process.env.node.env or development. So we'll default to development, but whenever we deploy, this will be set to production, and we'll have to add a production key in here with the production connection. Okay, so let's say our connection config is that connects file at that specific environment. And then basically, if we take this object, pass it into connects, it will connect to the database. So let's require in connects. And then we'll say connection is going to be connects with the connection config. And we'll export this connection. Cool. So this one file connects to the database, and then everywhere else in our app where we want to like query the database will just require in this connection file. Alka says, not even using a lib folder. I guess I could. Should I? I don't think. I'm going to have like one more file in here. It's fine. No directories. Okay. Where are we now? So we set up the DB connection, create a counter route. So I want to be able to essentially post this info to the server, insert it into the DB, and then respond with the inserted info. So in here, yeah, why not? Let's create some folders. Okay, so I'm going to create a folder. Let's call this counter. Let's call this routes. And I'm going to create another folder and call it lib. We're going to put db inside of lib. Update imports for db. Yeah, I don't think there are any imports. Inside of routes, I'm going to create a new file. We're going to call these our counter routes, so counter.js. We'll create an express router. We'll export it. And then let's just do a basic get route right now. So router.get on like /counters. Let's just res.json an empty array just to make sure that it's working. So we have this router. We'll bring this into our index. And then we will use it. So right here I'll say app.use on /counter. Counters. We'll use that counter router. So now when I make a request to my app on /counters, that will go into the counter router and then respond with an empty array. Let's try it out. It should be auto refreshing for me. So if I do /counters, empty array, good to go. That's a good point. Alka is saying the DB requires connects file, so we need to update. Oh, look, VS Code did that automatically for me. That's pretty awesome. Let's do that here. Cool. Okay, where are we at? So we have the counters route. Really, I don't want a get route. I want a post route. So I want to be able to create a new counter. Mayur is saying no cores middleware. For now, no. For now, I'm just going to be using Postman to send data to it. And then the counter itself is going to be an SVG image, so we don't need cores for that. So for now, no cores. Okay, so I'm going to do a router.post. So when we send a post request to /counters, we're going to try to insert it into the database. For now, I'm just going to log rec.body. We'll start up Postman. Just a second. So I want to make a post request to http://localhost 5000/counters. Go. And it does nothing. But if we look at the terminal, it should be logging nothing because there is no body parser right now, but at least we're hitting that route. In our setup here, we should definitely bring in the JSON body parser. So here we'll say app.use express.json. And then now we should at least get an empty body. Cool, we do. And now if we send it some JSON data, like background color. Wait. Cool, yeah. It's sending the data. That's a good sign. So we're sending data to our server. Now we should validate it. So before we attempt to insert into the database, we want to make sure that the data that they send us is valid. So pretty much we want to make sure that it has all of these properties on it. So for that, let's use a validation library. I've used Joy in the past, but at work I've been using something called Yup, which is very similar to Joy. Dead simple object schema validation. So which should I use? Let's use Yup, just because I don't think I've ever used it on the stream. Okay. Let's install Yup in the server. Let's create a schemas folder. And in here, we'll create counter.js. We want to create an object schema, so it's going to be something like this. So what does this thing have? Split, right. So we're going to be validating font family. It's a required string. Let's see if we can do like a minimum or maximum length validation. String.max. Set a maximum length for the string value. Yeah, so we'll say yup.string.max 50. So can't be more than 50 characters, and it is required. We'll do the same thing with font color. Max size of 9. We'll do, I think we can also do a regular expression validation. So the font color can only be letters and numbers. So there yeah, matches. So it starts with, and there are one or more A through Z, Z through A, 0 through 9, A through, yeah, lowercase, uppercase, and numbers, and it ends. Font size is a integer. I think I can do a number. Let's see if I can do something like integer. Number.integer validates that a number is an integer. That's great. Yep. If you're going to include the hashtag later, you'll need to increase the size to allow 7. For whatever reason, I think someone suggested it, but I made the size 9. Technically, 7 is all we need for a hex color, right? Oh well. Like the color just won't render if they send it in as yeah. Actually, let's yeah. Max. Well, is there a dot length? Min. Let's say it has to be length 7, so it has to include the hash and have all 6 digits. We're saying A through F. Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. A through F. We should allow capital letters though, right? And then Alka suggested we can just do /D for digits. Oh, alpha support with 9. I see. I've never actually. I don't think I've ever done a hex code with alpha. But I guess it works like RGB. Like if it instead of being 7 characters, it would be 9, where the last 2 are the alpha value. Cool. A through F. Yes. Thanks for keeping me honest. What about FFF? We're gonna only allow full, like you have to type 6 Fs instead of 3. I'll just say that. Jitesh is asking what plugin is currently displaying the size of required packages. This is called import cost. You can find it on the thing. I'm pretty sure SVG fill doesn't support RGBA. There's separate fill opacity. Okay, we're going to go with 7. Our database supports up to 9, but when we send it to the server, we're going to only allow up to... we need to have them have 7 characters in it. And it has a hash. Is that a special character? No. So hash... and then the 6 digits. And I guess I could do 6, where hash followed by 6 of any of those things, followed by a $. Okay. Font size is a number, and it is an integer, and it is required. Background color, we can probably use this same validation. Let's store this in a variable. So we'll say font color is color, and background color is a color. Let's store this in a variable too. So we'll say font size is an integer, width is an integer, height is an integer, and max length is an integer. I think this is our validation. Yeah. Oh, good call. Using case insensitive to remove capital A through F. Yeah, we can do that. So we can just do a case insensitive match, and then we don't need that. Like it. Min value for Jim is saying min value for font size, it's non-negative. Thank you very much. I will say min is 1, because we don't want a font size of 0. Oh no, yeah, integer. Yeah, that should apply to all of them. Cool. I think we've done it. I think we've created a schema here. Josh is saying probably want the font size to be a positive integer. Yeah, Yeah, I think somebody else mentioned that. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, so now all of these have a minimum of 1. Do we want to set the max length max? We probably should. I didn't in my database. Technically, this is any valid integer. And if anyone does like a really high number, it's just going to be like a very large SVG. I don't know. Hello, Amy. Amy asks, is the use of a library for these validations common practice? It is. So, I mean, if you're using something like SQLize, it has built-in validations and schemas. There is a middleware for Express called Express Validator, which can actually take a Joy schema and validate the incoming requests. I'm just creating this schema manually, and then what I'm going to do is in the route validate that the body matches this specific shape. So let's do that here. Let's bring in the schema. And then the request comes in, and we'll do counter schema.validate rec.body. And this actually returns a promise, so I'm going to use async await. So we'll do await that, and I believe it will throw if it doesn't match. So we're going to do try to validate the incoming body that the user sent against the schema. And then if it was valid, for now, we're just going to respond with like this. Thumbs up. If it wasn't, we'll forward the error, and then I'll go ahead and create an error handler. So I'll just do next with the error. Yeah, Kelly is mentioning we don't want a 65,000 max length. Okay, let's do it. So max length, probably like 100. So max length specifically is going to be used for how many digits do you want your counter to show. So this is 6 digits. So if they did like 100, that would be pretty long. Probably like 20 is even the most you would want to get. Let's say the max length on here is 20. Yeah, let's just do it. I don't think I can chain a dot max after the required. And I do think I need to do number dot min. But we'll just have to copy this. Okay. So we validate it. If it throws an error, we forward to our error handler. If it was good, we do this. So I do need to create an error handler. So in my index, let's create an error handler right here. We'll do app.use. An error handler in Express has 4 parameters: error, rec, res, and next. And I guess we can set the status code here. So we'll say if res.statuscode does not equal 500, then we'll set it to 5. Wait. I want to set the status code. So if, let's say, in the route, they did res.status. That's an invalid status code. But if they did this, it's going to set res.statuscode. If they didn't do that, I think it defaults to 200. So yeah, so if res.statuscode is equal to 200, then we'll set it to 500. Otherwise, we'll keep its current value if they set it. We'll do a res.json. We'll say message is error.message. And stack is, if we're in development, we'll show the stack trace. Process.env.node.env is equal to development. Then we'll do error.stack. Otherwise, we'll give them a pancake stack. Okay, and we do want to set the status code, so we'll do res.status with the status code. Okay, so now that this error handler is here, in the route, if the validation fails, it will call next, which will pass the error in and hopefully return an error. Let's try it out. So right now, because I'm sending only the background color, we should get a validation error because it doesn't have all the other properties. Go! Max length is a required field. That's awesome. And I do need to change my... I need to swap this around because right now node.env isn't set. So let's say if it's production, then we'll show the pancake stack. Otherwise, we'll show the error stack. There you go. I actually want to log out the error here, though, because there might be other messages in it. But let's try this. Oh, it doesn't even, it's not even validating background color. It's just saying you need max length. Okay, so we'll include a max length. Say that's 6. Go. Height is a required field. Want height to be 35. Width is a required field. I want width to be 100. Background color must be at most 7 characters. Cool. But what if it's not and I put some of that in there? Background color must be at most 7 characters. Oh, well. Background color must match the following. That's cool. I like this. It's working. Oh, wow. So in talking about max number of digits, 13 digits is 1 trillion views, or like it would be 1 trillion hits. So that actually is a lot. Oh, hey, P. Joe, it's been a while. The new job is good. I'm liking it a lot. Yeah, so the most watched YouTube video only has a few billion views. So honestly, max length probably shouldn't be 20. We'll make it 13. We can have up to 1 trillion. Cool. And hello, Morosa. Welcome to the stream. Tracy is saying, I'm interested in how the algorithm is written for the YouTube view counter, as there's a lot that goes into a view now. Yeah, it's probably super complex because I believe they even count it if you only watch like 1 minute of a video. Like it probably depends on the amount, but they'll count a view even if you don't watch the whole video. So there's definitely some complex stuff going on in there. Okay. So background color doesn't match it. Must be at least 7 characters. Cool. Font size is a required field. 20 pixels. Font color is a required field. What's the hex color for lime? So it's red, green, blue. So if I do FF, that should be like lime, right? Font family is a required field. Let's do Courier. That's like a monospace font. Hey, okay, cool. Yeah, Alka's got it. 00FF00. That's all green, no red, no blue. This is great. So our validation is working wonderfully. Yeah, like let's try like a really big font size. Wait, what is my max font size? Integer. Oh, I don't have a max. So font size, width, and height don't have a max. I should probably give them a max. And they're going to be different. Okay, let's do this. So we'll say font size is an integer and max font size 50, and it is required. Width max, so this is in pixels, the width. Let's say 600 pixels is the max wide it will be. And same thing for height, max of 600 pixels high. Okay, so now if I send a font size of 70, I should get an error. Font size must be less than or equal to 50. And what if I send a string for font size? Font size must be a number type, but the final value was nan. Cool, and I think that means it does casting for us, which is cool. Yeah. Okay. All right, we're making progress here. So we're validating the thing that's getting sent to the server. Now let's actually insert it into the database. If we look at our checklist, yeah, so we're validating the body. Now we need to insert into DB. At this point, we could take the body, insert it in. We do need to set a few more properties. So we need to set the secret key, and we need to no, I think updated and created will automatically get set. I think one thing we're potentially missing, though, is I don't want to identify the counter by just like an integer ID. I want to identify it by like a GUID. A GUID, something like this. So I might add another column to counter. Yeah. Josh is asking, are you going to validate for known font types or do that on the backend with the default? I don't think so. I think if it's an unknown font type, it just defaults to the system. So this SVG is essentially what we're going to be generating by passing in width and height and background color, font color, font family, font size. We're going to pass those in dynamically. But what you're looking at here is this SVG. And if we set the font family to something that doesn't, well, I don't want to do that, but something that doesn't exist, it just defaults to the system font. So I think that's fine. Jim is asking, what if you want size in percents, ems, rems, view height, or view width? Too bad. For now, I'm just going to handle pixels. Definitely something we could add in the future, but for now, everything's just going to be static pixels. I think the validation would really get a bit more complex if you wanted them to pass in a string that has like view height, view width, that kind of thing. Okay. I think before I insert this thing, I do want to create one more column. I want to do GUID. And I'll actually generate a unique ID and put that in there. Yeah. I'm curious if I can add this as an index, how easy that would be. Adds an index to the table. And the main reason I would want to add an index here is I'm going to be potentially be querying this table by the GUID as well. Let's just try it. Okay, I'm gonna roll back my migrations and then run them. Okay, and then if we look at the counter table, GUID, I think is now an ID. Cool. Okay, so now that we have this, let's try inserting something into our database. I'm going to create another folder. Let's call this queries. And in here, I'll create a file called counter.js. We're going to bring in the database connection because we're actually going to connect to the database here. So let's say db equals require lib/db. I'm just going to export an object that has a few functions on it. And we'll have create. This will take in the counter to be created, to create. And we'll say db counter. So on the counter table, I want you to insert in counter. And we're going to return this. So that should insert it into the database. Now we can import this into our route and actually call this function. So in here, let's bring in our counter queries. And I guess before we insert it, we do need to set the GUID and we need to set the secret key. So let's do that. It'll be something like rec.body. And actually, I want to test something really quick. If I send an extra property in here, what will it do? Ooh, it's still valid. Okay, I want to add to my my schema to not allow other properties because I don't want them to pass in other things that they're not supposed to. So with yup, if we look at shape, no unknown. Validate that the object value only contains keys specified in shape. Okay, so quick break. So I think I can do on our schema here, we can say object.shape.no unknown properties. What is the Boolean? It defaults to true. Okay, so now that I did that, it should complain. May have to do it here. Allow known keys. Only known keys. Does it not default to true? Is my server restarting? It is. Oh, maybe I have to look at object.shape. feel like this should work. And it should complain about this extra key here. Okay. That's not working, but I think the safest thing to do is just to pluck out all of these properties and then just create a new object instead of just directly passing in rec.body. So here's what we'll do. We'll say counter equals this. Okay, we're going to destructure it. So we're going to say, well, we'll do this. We'll create, we're going to destructure all of these properties out of rec.body, and then we'll create a counter using those properties. And then we need to add the extra properties that the database requires. So we'll add the secret key, and we'll generate that somehow, and we'll add GUID, and we'll also generate that somehow. Simba's saying maybe put it after the shape. I think I tried that. Yeah, because I put it there. I put it here. Yeah. Wait, am I looking at the right document? Yeah, I'm looking at yup. Okay. Yup. Shape. No unknown properties. Strip and no unknown. Oh, do we need to pass in strict true? I've never really used schema options before. Only validate the input and skip the coercion or transformation. Strip unknown. Remove unspecified keys from objects. Oh, interesting. Well, so will it actually return? I think it will. So maybe I have to do strip unknown true, and then I get it back as an object. Let's see. Now I don't gotta do all this business. And then we'll just respond with what they sent us. Yeah, okay, I think that's the way to do it. Because if I have other random things in here, they get stripped out. Cool! That's the way to go. See you later, Danielle. Have a good night. I think I missed a chat. Oh, yeah. Ably says, hi CJ, I've been watching your videos now for a little under a year, and they've been a crucial part in my journey of learning to code. It was so successful that I've been making a living out of it, so thank you for all the inspiration. You are very welcome, and I'm very happy that you're making a living out of it. That's awesome. Yeah. Amy asks, the next time you take a small break from coding, will you tell us how your fish is doing? I will, and my fish is doing great. It's actually in the living room now because that's where I spend most of the time. I didn't like having it in my bedroom because I'm barely ever in here, so it used to be in here and I had like a camera pointed at it. But yes, I will. I think I've been streaming close to 2 hours. I want to finish this tonight. I'm not going to stop streaming without finishing this thing. Yeah, we're going to finish this. I might take a short walk right there for like a few minutes later on. But okay, that was great. Now we don't need all this extra code. we have the counter. Now we need to generate a GUID and a secret key. So let's grab a library for that. For the GUID, I use this UUID library. Here's if these like cryptographically strong random number APIs when available. Okay. I definitely want to use UUID version 4 to generate the unique ID. So let's do that. I'm going to install UUID in the server, and then we'll use it. So here we'll say counter.guid equals that, and then counter.secret key. I mean, technically we could just generate another GUID. It'll be random enough that it'll be extremely hard to guess. Does anyone have any other suggestions for something I can use to generate some sort of secret key that you must know in order to update this specific counter in the database? I guess another thing we could do is actually hash it. And then when we're doing updates, compare the hash. That would actually be a lot more secure. Let's do that. Why not? Okay, so we're going to generate just a secret key that's a GUID. But when we store it in the database, we're going to hash it. bcrypt.js. Bcrypt. SHA-250 of the GUID. I know there's a crypto module in Node. Yeah, 256. So Kelly, are you thinking we hash it and then that's what we store and that's what we share with the user, or we store the hash but return the secret key to the user? What are you thinking? Jim says just use their social security number for the secret. What could go wrong? Crypto. Hash.digest. We could use this, but it's using streams or callbacks. We could probably find a library that uses promises. Seems pretty easy to use. Let's look at GitHub. Published 4 years ago? I mean, like, hashing SHA-256 hasn't changed in that time. But, oh, deprecation notice. The library is deprecated. I think it's important to maintain a library. Alternatives. Let's check these out. Hash.js, updated very recently, 170 stars. SHA.js, updated 10 months ago, 200 stars. Which one should we use? 3 issues here. I'm kind of tired. Alka is saying just promisify the other thing. I guess I could. I didn't want to though. I just want to use the library. Kelly is asking, need to know what the secret key is going to be used for. The user will, if they, so this post request will create the counter. That creates it in the database. But then later on, if they want to update properties on it, like if they want to update the font size or the background color or anything like that, they'll have to include the secret key in their request, and the database will validate that the secret key is the same and allow them to update it. It's like very simple, not exactly that secure auth, because you could potentially guess the secret key, but as long as the secret key is complex enough, it's enough security for what we need. I think you're right, Alka. It's more of a hassle to find a good library than just to do it myself. But it's so easy. Look, hash 256, update, digest. I like this one because it has a SHA-256 method. We're going to go with this one. I'm getting some great suggestions for what I should use for the hash. I mean, really, I could just use bcrypt like that and then respond with the secret key, and when they send it back, validate it using bcrypt. I'm just going to do that. Why not? Like, that's how passwords work anyways. I'm basically generating a password that they can use to update this thing. That's what I'm going to do. We're using bcrypt. Does this support promises? Yes, it does. I've used this library before. You're a wizard, CJ. Oh, no. Okay, so we've got bcrypt. Let's hash the thing. And basically that's what's happening here. I am generating a password for them that will just be this GUID. That's the password that they have to use to update it. But in our database, we're going to store the hashed version of that password. Okay. We'll do bcrypt.hash. Okay, so I need to store it in a variable. So let's say const secret key is going to be equal to that. Const hash is going to be await bcrypt dot hash the secret key. I think it defaults to 8 rounds. We'll do that. And then we'll insert it into the database. So before we insert it, we'll say counter.hash equals that. And then we'll call this created counter. And then before we respond with it, we'll say created counter dot secret key equals the secret key. So this will be the only time we ever send back the secret key. Otherwise, it will be hashed in our database. All right, moment of truth. Go. Ah! Unknown column hash in the field list. So I actually need to set it. Oh, no, I can do this. So create the secret key, hash it, but then before I return it, use that. Go. And we get the inserted value. So it did insert it into the database. We can update our query, though, to actually give back the thing that it inserted. So let's do that. You can do insert returning everything. And And then this is actually going to be an array of length 1 because we're inserting one thing. So let's do this. We'll say await that and return the created thing. So now if I try to create one, no? It's giving me back the ID. Motivation says, hey, ZJ, it's still live when it's midnight here. I'm getting tired, and it's late here, but spent a lot of time getting MySQL set up, getting these things inserted. We're in the home stretch, though. I think we will be generating hit counters very soon. So it's inserting it, but it's not being returned. Do like dot returning star. Let's look at the connect docs. Does it need to be before the insert? Let's try one more time. We're going to have 3 in our database. No. This is supposed to be destructuring the array that comes back. Let's just log it. Okay. We are creating it. The thing that gets returned back, we're setting the secret key property and then returning that. But if we watch the log when this happens, let's see what actually is being returned from the database insert. Yeah, it's just an array. This should return everything. What am I missing? Basically, I want everything back from the database that it just inserted. And this is not working. It's only giving me back the ID of the inserted thing. Maybe they changed it recently? Oh, you know what? I'm used to Postgres, and in Postgres you do get back the whole thing. But maybe MySQL, you have to do a select to get back the whole thing that was inserted. Let's see. Insert a row and get the content. Stored procedure? No. No, it's not possible in MySQL. Unlike Postgres, you'll have to do it in separate queries. Really? Oh, that's so lame. I don't like that, but oh well. Okay, I guess I can't do this with MySQL. So we'll have to do this. So we get the ID, and then we'll have to query for it. So let's make another function, find by ID, pass in the ID, and we will return db counter dot where ID is that ID, Is first a thing? Yeah, grab the first one. So create it, we'll get back the ID, then we'll have to call find by ID to get back all of the info. So we'll say ID equals create, and then we'll say created counter equals await counter queries dot find by ID. Then after we've found it, we'll set the secret key to be the underlying secret key, not the hashed one, and then respond with it. Okay, moment of truth. Go. Soundboard. Cool. So this is being inserted into the DB. We're responding with the secret key here. But if we actually look in the database, it should be the hashed version. So if I do select star from counter, whoa, does this have extended mode? In Postgres terminal, there's a way of showing things all on individual lines instead of like in a jumbled table like that. Oh, explain. What? Do /g at the end of the query. Didn't quite work. One row, two row. Oh, I see. You do /G instead of a semicolon. Okay, so let's go back up to my explain. Okay, it was the other G, it's this one. However, that's not actually selecting the data in the table. It's giving me info about the select. How do I actually show the data? Weird. Making long output lines more readable. Show full columns from lim. Okay. Oh, just the oh, I see. Just the select, not the explain. Nice. Okay, cool. So this is the data in my actual table, and you can see that the secret key is actually stored as a hashed value, and it has all of the other things in there. That's great. Great, 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 great. Okay. Just real quick, let's make a route to get a specific counter by GUID. Right? Right? Okay. So yeah, let's look at our README. So we are inserting, good to go. Okay, now we want a route for getting the SVG of a specific counter. I have logic here for like setting a cookie and deciding if it's unique. Right now, I'm just going to generate it with like a static number. But let's get that going. So in our routes, let's do a get. We want it to be counter GUID. Let's just say GUID. And then we'll need to query the database for a counter that has that GUID. So we'll do, let's do a try catch. We'll say counter equals await counter queries dot find by GUID rec.params dot GUID. If there was a querying error, we'll do that. This needs to be an async function. If the counter exists, we are going to respond with it. Else, we didn't find it, so let's just do... yeah, we'll just respond with the 404. So res.status 404, create an error, not found. And then we'll do call next with the not found 1. Okay, we now need to create this function find by GUID. So in our queries, we'll create another function find by GUID, pass in the GUID. Very similar query here, but instead we're going to be passing in GUID. And this will have the secret key on it, so I definitely don't want to send like that. I think just for now, I'm just going to respond with it. Ultimately, we're going to be responding with an SVG that has all of the data embedded inside of it, so they won't ever see like the secret key or anything. But for now, I'm just going to res.json the counter. So it should work. So for instance, if we grab the GUID of this counter, and then we make a GET request for it, we should get back the data in the database. Cool. But now we can actually generate the SVG instead of just responding with the counter. Kelly is saying, it's funny how complex such a simple sounding thing like a hit counter might be. I think I've made it more complex than it actually is. Like, I think especially if I would have used Mongo, we wouldn't have had to create the tables. I wouldn't have had to debug it so much. I don't know. Okay, let's do it. I guess in lib, let's create a new file and call it svg.js. We'll create a function called generate. It'll take in the counter, and it will return just like an SVG string with all of the data inside of it. So this is our template. We basically want to do this. And this is where we'll use the actual values. So we'll destructure this. So we know that we have width, height, and then let's use these right here. So we'll say width. We'll say height. We need background color. And that goes right here. We need font color. And that goes right here. We need font family. And then we also need font size. Right now, we'll just default to the number 42. In a bit, we're going to have to query to see how many hits this thing actually has. But for now, we're just going to return this SVG that has the number 42 inside of it. OK. Let's just do module.exports. It's an object that has the generate function in it. Cool. Now let's import that into our route. Routes. Yep. So let's say generate will be require in lib/svg. And then right here, we'll do a res.send of generate of the counter. Here we go. Go! Boom! Okay, and we get back an SVG that has all of the values pre-filled into it. Yay! See you later, Amy. Thanks for tuning in. And Jim is saying, past midnight, time to sleep. Awesome stream. Thanks for tuning in, and have a good night. Cool. So we're generating an SVG. That is awesome. Let's embed it in a web page, right? So like if I took this URL and like put it in an image tag, I should be able to actually just see that image. So let's do that. Here I'm going to create an example folder, and inside the example folder, I'm just going to create an index.html file, and then in here, we'll create a file. And now we want an image tag where the source is that URL. Let's see what happens. Okay. In the example folder, I'll just start up light server. Okay, the image is broken. Let's see if we get any errors here. So, if we look at the request, we can see, and I think actually saw it here, right now the type is coming across as text HTML, so we actually need to tell the thing making the request that, hey, this is SVG. So specifically it's the content type. Let's look up the SVG content type, or like MIME type. The right MIME type for SVG images. This is the usual SVG MIME type, and it works great. However, when embedding an SVG font, I'm not doing that. Let's try it. So in our handler here, before we send it, if we do I believe it's set, we want to set the content type header. We want to set that to be SVG. Let's see what happens. Nope. You'll notice the response headers don't have the content type on there. I think we do something like res.end instead of res.send. Yeah, that did it. Okay. So now if we look at the response, you can see that it's actually setting that content type header to be image SVG. Cool. We've done it. Yeah, Kelly is saying, don't you need to set a header saying the content type is image SVG? Yes. And now we can actually embed this anywhere. So if someone wanted to embed this counter, all they'd have to do is put an image tag on their site with this URL. It would load the counter, and then this is where things get interesting, because we can start actually, anytime a counter is requested, we can check if a cookie is set. If it's not, we set a cookie. We can look up the number of entries in the visitor table and then dynamically set the count here instead of having it as static. That's great. Cool, cool, cool. Yeah, I think we're doing great things. I have been streaming for a little over 2 hours now, so I'm going to take like a 5-minute break, get some water, and then we'll come back. We'll finish this thing. Hopefully, I can actually deploy it tonight, and all the wonderful people of the world can create their own counters. But yeah, I'm going to take a 5-minute break. I will be back. Thanks for sticking around as long as you have, but I'll be back very soon. Let me see. I think I can broadcast an alert. We'll be right back. Please stand by. Can anyone tell me if they got a broadcast? I've never used that feature before. Actually, I'm gonna. If I go to the webpage. Oh no. Tell me if they got no, no, shh, stop it. How does the broadcast work? A broadcast? I don't know. I clicked the button on. I clicked the button that said broadcast alert. Oh well, I will be back. 5 minutes. Don't go anywhere. I'm back. I am back. Just a moment. There we go. I ate a Cliff Bar. I drank a cup of water. Cool. So, yeah, and if you're just tuning into the stream, I can tell you what I'm building. So if you remember back in the day, there used to be these things called hit counters. Basically, people had a service where they would allow you to create a hit counter. You could embed some image on your website, and then unique visitors to the website or any visitor website would increase the counter, so you could see how many people have visited your webpage. So that's what I'm building. Up to this point, we have created a service that allows you to send the background color, font size, width, and height, and I think that's it, and font family of the counter, and it will dynamically generate that. The next thing, which we're about to code up, is actually handling the views of the counter, which will increase the number. Just for fun, let's generate a new one. So let's say we do a post to counters. Let's say the background color is pink. Can someone give me a pink background color? Hex pink. That's like I want like a hot pink color. Yeah, that's a good one. Okay. I'm gonna go with a pink background. We'll go with white, which is all Fs. I wonder, can I do Comic Sans as the font? Max length is 6. Let's make it like twice as big. So we'll do 70 height and 200 width and 40 font size. Go. So that gives us this unique ID. And then on the web page, we can embed it using that unique ID in an image tag. So if we use this unique ID instead, now we should see 2 of them. That's not it. There it is, look at that! Oh, Comic Sans didn't work. Maybe I spelled it wrong. Comic Sans CSS. Applying Comic Sans font style. Let's try this. All right, we're gonna have to escape. Okay. Did I not copy the right GUID? Oh, it could be that when it puts in that font family, it, oh, it does have double quotes around it. Maybe I need to send it with single quotes, because in the SVG, double quotes in here would break it. Yeah. Okay, let's try it with single quotes. Go. I should probably be validating that font family a little bit better, but regardless. Yeah, look at that. So whenever you create it, you can specify all these custom properties, and then it will return to you this image that has the number in it. Right now, it's just a default number. Now we're going to handle actually updating that number in the database. That's great. I'm liking this. Okay. So let's look at our checklist. We are here. So we have created the get route. At least we're getting it. Now we need to actually handle like setting a cookie and checking to see if a cookie exists. So for that, we are going to need a library for the backend. We're going to use cookie parser. Cookie dash parser. So this is an Express middleware that will parse the cookie header of incoming requests. So to set that up in our index.js, we'll require it in cookie parser. And then we will use it. And then now inside of our route, we can get access to a cookie. So if you look in our README, let's close everything else except for these two. Check if a cookie exists. So what I think we'll do is for a given counter, we'll set a cookie with the name of the counter, so or the GUID of the counter. So here we could do request dot cookies. This is gonna be an object, and for now, let's just log it. We're just gonna log rec.cookies. Turn my sound is loud? Oh, Alka is telling him to turn the sound on. The sound is at like it shouldn't be peaking or anything like that. Feel free to use the YouTube volume knob. Cool. Quick digression. Tracy asks, what do you work as for your day job? I work at a JavaScript consultancy, so we build custom apps for businesses, startups, anybody that wants an app built. I'm a lead full stack developer. Currently, I'm on a project where I'm the lead front end developer, mostly doing React. But I'm doing a little bit of Node.js here and there, and for future projects, most likely will be like full stack, either back end or front end. But I build apps, custom apps. Okay. When someone requests a counter, we're going to log the cookies that the browser is sending with it. So we'll go back over. We will refresh this page, and we can see, oh, actually, see, I was messing around with this earlier. There is a cookie in there called hit count user and with like some random value. Let's get rid of that because we're going to set a custom one. So if we look at application, and then we look at cookies, we can see there are some cookies set by localhost 3000. Let's just get rid of all those. Refresh the page. I think IO is something that a cookie that light server is setting, but we can see this gives us an object of all the cookies. So we're just going to check and see if it has a cookie with the name of this hit counter. So let's do if rec.cookies at GUID, and let's store GUID in a variable. So if there is a cookie set with this GUID, that means that this user has seen this counter before. Else, this is a new user. Cool. Okay, I think the sound issues are sort of worked out. So that's like our cookie logic. So check if the cookie exists. If it does, update the visit counter for the visitor. If not, create a visitor and set the cookie. So we'll handle the case where the cookie was not set. So we will create a visitor. We're going to need to insert a new row into our visitor table, and basically that visitor will be a visitor for this specific cookie. So let's create some new queries. I'm going to create visitor.js. We need to bring in the DB. It's going to be very similar. Take a quick stretch. Oh, cool. Tracy's saying they're freelance and full stack and doing automation systems for businesses and stuff. That's awesome. Okay, so to create a visitor, we want to insert into the visitor table the visitor that we just got passed in. It's going to give us back the ID. I guess we might not need that, but this will insert a visitor into the database. This is purely going to be done on our backend. Like, we're not going to be having any routes for creating visitors. So I'm going to skip the validation on here, mainly because I'm going to be manually creating the visitor and inserting them. So we need to create a new visitor object. If we look at the properties that a visitor has, they have a counter ID. And so counter ID is equal to counter.id because we just looked it up in the database. So that's the counter ID. Their visit count we will set to 1 because this is the first time that they have visited the page. And their last visited is going to be right now. Okay, so we create the visitor, and then let's insert them into the database. So we'll grab the visitor queries. And then we will insert them. So we will await, and this is going to give us back their ID when we create the visitor. And then we will set a cookie because we've just inserted them into the database. So if not, create the visitor and set a cookie. So to set a cookie, I believe we can just do response dot cookie. Pass in the name of the cookie. In this case, I'm going to make the GUID the name of the cookie because that's what we're looking to see what it's called. And the value is just going to be this user's ID. Right now, I'm not doing any validation on that. Basically, if if this is like some bogus value, we can handle that when we're actually looking up that specific user. But otherwise, it should be fine. So we haven't seen this visitor before. We create a new visitor, insert them into the database, and then set a cookie where the name of the cookie is this counter's unique ID, and the value of the cookie is this visitor's ID in the database. Good, easy enough. Now, we have to handle the other case. So let's say that they have seen this counter before. Then we're going to grab their ID and then try to look them up in the database. So that way we can update the last visited date. So we need another query. We'll do async find by ID. And I wrote this for counter. It's very similar. It's just looking at a different table. Probably could refactor this in some way, but I think that's good enough for now. So we will then attempt to find the visitor. if the visitor exists, then we're going to update them. If not, then we basically need to create a new one. So really this logic here, we'll put in like if new user, do this. And we'll say new user equals false. If the visitor was found in the database, we're good. Else, new user equals true. So if we didn't find them in the database, we're just going to reset a new cookie and add them in the database there. Okay. Now if we found them, we want to update their visit count and their last visited date. So let's create an update query. Say update. We'll pass in the ID, and we'll pass in, I think we'll just handle it here. So because when we say update, we want to increase the count by 1 and set the last visit date to the current date. I guess we'll pass in the count because we have access to it in the other function. So we can say we will await visitor queries dot update. We want to update the one with this specific ID, and we want its visit count to be visitor dot visit count plus 1. So that'll increment it by 1, and then in our query we can do an update. So we'll say db at visitor where ID is that. We want to update. We want to set visit count to be visit count, and we want last visited to be right now. Cool. So go to the visitor table where their ID is this specific ID, update their visit count to be the new visit count, and set their last visited date to be today. That should do it. Okay. Now, before we generate the counter, we want to get the total number of visits to this counter. So we're handling all the cookie logic. I guess the other thing we could potentially handle here is if they have this unique query parameter on the end, we could only show the unique number of visitors, but if they leave this off, then we'll show the total number of visitors to the website. So let's handle that. So in here, we can grab unique from rec.query, and we'll default this to false. So by default, it's not going to show you unique views, it's going to show you total number of page visits. And then we need to grab the count here. So we'll say if unique is equal to true, get unique count, else get total count. Okay, so to get the unique count, we basically just need to query the database for all visitors that have this specific counter ID. And let's say count starts off as 0, but then we can set it here. So let's say count equals, we'll say visitor queries dot get count by counter ID. and we'll pass in counter.id. So basically, we want to search the database for every visitor that has this specific counter ID. And that will be all of the unique visitors, because that's only the ones that have this counter ID. So let's write this function. Visitor queries. We want to have get count by counter ID. And we're going to pass in the counter ID. And it's going to be pretty simple. So where the counter ID is that specific counter ID, and I think we can do dot count. And that should do that. For some reason, I'm doing return await. I don't have to do that. This can just be returned. I don't know why I was doing that. Yeah, these can go away. Okay, but this should now get all unique visitors. That's great. And then the other thing we want is total number of counts. So we need to get all visitors and then add up their visit count. So we'll say count.await visitor queries dot get total visits by counter ID. One more function. So we'll do this. Let's say visitors equals that. And really, we just want to count up all the visit counts. So we'll do visitors dot reduce total, and we'll grab out the visit count, and we want to return total plus the visit count. Starts off at 0. That should do it. So the way I'm doing this is I'm grabbing all entries in the visitor table and then just using JavaScript to count up all of their visit counts. You could do this with a SQL query where you basically do the sum inside the database. I know JavaScript a lot better than I know SQL, so this is easy enough for me. So basically, visitors is an array of all visitors that have that specific counter ID, and then we're adding up all of their visit counts. So that'll give us total number of visits. Cool. And then now we just need to use that. Yeah, and so Kelly is saying, can't you use sum using connects? Possibly, maybe. I'll look into that next. Like I said, I'm most comfortable with JavaScript, so it was easy enough to just write that. But we can definitely update this to total it in the DB itself without having to do extra logic. But now when I generate the counter, I'm also going to pass in the count. And if I go to my generate function, where is it? Lib svg. Now we take in the counter and the count. And this is where we have to actually add the count. Notice that I'm padding it with zeros, so we're going to want to do that. I think, pad left is a thing. So turn it into a string, because it is a number. Pad left with max length. Zeros? Let's see if pad left is a thing. Yeah, JavaScript pad left. Pad start. Yeah, that's the one I want. Okay. Yeah, Andrew Lane says it, pad start. So I think we're there. I have written a lot of code without testing it, but I think we're there. So when I refresh this page right here, both of these should go back down to 1, and we should see 2 cookies in the browser. Let's see what happens. 0. No cookies. Do I have any errors? Refresh. Okay, got to do some debugging. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use the built-in debugger inside of VS Code, and we're going to walk through the code. Let's take a quick stretch. Okay, we'll start right here. Do debug. See if this still works. No. I need to probably set up the settings here. No. So node launch program server index.js launch. Okay, so now if I refresh this page, there we go. Okay, so the page is requesting this specific counter. Now we can step through what's happening. So we got the counter back from the database, so it does exist. We're saying the new user is false. We're looking at cookies, and is there one with this GUID? There is not, so it should skip that. Oh, I need to that's why. I need to default new user to true. And then here I'll say new user equals false. That's why. Okay. It's just gonna work now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes. Cool. So it's working, and you can see that it's setting a cookie with the unique counter, and then the specific user ID of the visitor there. Cool. That's awesome. Now, if we, in our example, add unique on the end here, it should just be 1. So if we say unique equals true, we should only see object. Nice. Let's debug that. Oh, Alka's saying, I know the answer, use 127001. So the interesting thing here is because these are image tags, it doesn't have anything to do with like JavaScript requesting them. So by default, this request is setting a cookie, so the browser can automatically handle that. It shouldn't have anything to do with the like the host. But let's debug this. Like why? Debug. I'm getting object. So that's whenever unique is equal to true. So let's debug this right here. Okay, so unique is true. Counter.id is 5. We're going to go in here. Counter ID is 5. Get count by counter ID. Oh, you know what? I probably have to do like dot count or something like that. Okay, so if we go in, we go back out, we go back out. Gotta skip through all this. Count is an object with a is an array. No, it's an array with an object inside of it that has a count value of 1? That is so weird. Yeah, like if we look at local scope, wait, is it a closure? Block scope. Count is an array of length 1, and at 0, there's a thing with a count property of 1. That's super weird. I guess I just need to see how the count function of MySQL works. Oh. Performs a count on the specified column or array of columns. Count ID. Yeah, I guess I need to pass in ID into this. Let's see. Let's debug it here. We can look at the count value. Now count at 0, count ID 1. I don't like that. Like, I mean, I'm gonna have to reach in to grab that count value. I guess I'll just do that. So result equals await that. And let's just not pass anything into it. And then, well, we know that it's going to be an array. And we want the first value in the array. So that's going to be result. And we want to return the only key in that object. So object.keys of result at 0. That's horrendous, but I think that's going to give us back the count because it'll get the first value in the array because I'm destructuring it. It will then get the first property in that object and then pull off the value and return that. I think this is what we want. Hey, 1. Okay. So because we put unique on there, now it's only the unique view. So if I open up like an incognito tab and go here, now it's 2, and if I refresh over here, I get 2. But that's because they are unique views. Awesome. Yeah, I think we've done it. We've done it. And like I can take unique off of this one. And yeah, we can see total number of views for that specific one. Cool. That's great. What do I do now? Let's look at the README. I think I'm probably done for tonight because I have been coding for 3 hours. 3 hours now. Yeah. But let's look at our README. So we're storing the cookie. We can either get unique or total views. We're generating the SVG. We're responding with the SVG. Yeah. I'm not going to have time to create a UI for this tonight. But I think I will try to deploy it. Just so that we can get it out there. To create a counter, you are going to have to use Postman. But Daniel's saying, should the unique be a column in the DB? Otherwise, you could just spam the URL with unique equals false. Well, no. So I'm not taking into account that the unique query parameter only registers one view. Like no matter what, when the image is loaded, that counts as a view no matter what. Unique will only show the unique views of that image. But no matter what, it's always registering a visit in the visit count. Cool. Kelly says, looks good. Do a part 2 for the rest. I think I might. It's getting late. I do have to work tomorrow. Yeah, and maybe a follow-up stream of creating components that can be injected into any framework. It would be cool to let's say all of this is stretch. But my idea is you have a web page where you have like sliders for the font size and a color picker for the background color and the foreground color. And you basically can preview it in real time before you create it. And then after you create it, it will spit out like your example image tag that you can place on your website. So I definitely want to create that. Then you could get even more info. So like, what if you wanted to know, get all of the visitors that have visited your counter? So you could make a request and get back an array of all the visitors that have like their last visit date, the number of times they visited. Obviously it's anonymized, like it's just a date and a unique ID. Like there is no IP address or anything else like that, but you could see that info about your visitors. And then we could also create a route where you can actually update your counter. So like change the background color, change the font size, change the min or the max length. And that's where your secret key would come into play, because you would use that to allow you to update it. Yeah, so I want to do this stuff, but not tonight. Michelle is saying, how can we find live visitors? Not exactly sure what you mean by that. It would be interesting, and an interesting stretch would be, I don't think you could do it using an SVG, but like you could give the user some sort of snippet that they can paste into their page, and that could connect to a socket server and update the visit counter in real time. So that would be interesting. Yeah. Oh, for sure. And Kelly is saying when you're getting the info, you would probably want to include the secret to only allow the person that created that specific counter to get the info about it. Okay. Should I deploy? It's only 11:30 my time. I think I want to try to deploy. I want to put this on a web page, and I want to see that number go up. So I'm gonna try to deploy. I think the first thing is I need a database. So I'm actually just gonna create that on Heroku. So I created an app earlier. I can add a resource to it. This one, why not? Provision. Please verify your account. No. What if I don't want to? Please verify your account. Does anyone know of a free MySQL hosting service? freemysqlhosting.net. This is probably not gonna be something. Creating your new database couldn't be easier. Enter your email address above. What? It's a 5 megabyte MySQL hosting space. Secure. Should I do this? Okay, I'm going to hide my screen while I do this, but this could end up being like the easiest way to deploy a MySQL database. Yeah, just enter my email. probably the sketchiest thing I've ever done on stream. Free MySQLhosting.net. Wait, what? Okay. My password has been set. This looks not very secure. It doesn't look secure at all. I've been standing up for way too long. I think that's why. Oh no, I don't want the monthly newsletter. Stop. Ooh, okay. North America West is where I want my database. Create a new database. Probably easy. Also, the thing, to verify my Heroku account, I would have to enter a credit card number, and I'm not sure if I want to do that on stream. Okay, you're right. I should just verify my my Heroku account. I'll like disappear for a second while I do that, but yeah, let me do that. Actually, one moment. Whoa. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. Okay, I verified my Heroku account. That was easy enough. And now I have a database. But one thing we need to do before we actually deploy is set up our environment variables locally. So you'll notice connects file only has development connection. We need to also set up a production connection. So let's add a production key here. The client is the same. The connection will have database. Let's say this is actually we'll do this process.env.database URL. So I can set an environment variable that's the full connection URL, and that should handle that. Kelly says, just dawned on me, night owl and night owl sound much the same, but mean completely different things. All right, Kelly, have a good night. Thanks for tuning in. I can't use imlab because imlab is for it is only Mongo database, isn't it? We're using MySQL. Okay, so we have this here. One thing though is we will need to run our migrations on the remote database. So I think we can do that by adding a task in our package JSON. something like, yeah, post install, maybe? Post published, post deploy. Yeah, I think post install. We'll do connects migrate latest. So that will create the database tables if they do not exist yet. I think that's the way to go. Okay, I am going to deploy the API using now. I actually haven't used now version 2 yet, but hopefully it will just allow me to use the old version. I need to add a secret though, so I think you do now secrets add something like hit count db, and then put the actual value there. So I'm going to hide my screen while I put the actual value for the database connection. Okay. So now that I've added the secret, I should be able to deploy with now-e, show my screen, node env equals production -e database URL equals hit counter db. Well, this needs to be at hit counter db, because that's what I called the secret. Let me just double check that. It was hit count db. Okay. Go. Yeah, so your project is missing now.json with a version. You're using an old version of the Now platform. That's fine with me because I haven't really read the Now version 2 docs just yet. So let's see what happens. Connects migrate latest. Using environment production. It actually ran the migrations on my remote database. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm going to hide my screen for just a second, but oh my goodness, I think that actually worked. Available. It's a data byte. Cool. No, I think it worked. Now it's just a matter of trying the API. Listening on port 5000. That's great. Okay. Sweet. Wait, what? I deployed to this URL earlier because I wanted to make sure no one could take it, but I think that's why. My extension is blocking it. Yay, okay, so it works. Let's try it. So we're going to make a post request to that/counters. We're making it a big pink counter. I'm going to hide my secret key so you all can't... I'm going to hide my screen for just a second. Send! It actually inserted it into the database. Oh my goodness, we are deployed. Okay. I'm going to share the link to the image and we'll see how many people actually visit it. That is awesome. Okay. Wait, is it counters? Yeah. Look at that. We're on the internet. Okay. Load this image, please. And let's do, I'll do unique. No way! Nice. Cool. This is great. We made a hit counter. Let's make it like really huge for the thumbnail. Wait, where is it? That way. Sweet. 20 unique visitors. Let's see how many non-unique visitors. 157! I'm so popular. That's great. Cool. So you saw how the API works. Like you could actually make a post request against /counters to create your own counter with all of the relevant details. If you do create one, post a comment below. The stream's going to end very soon, so post a comment with your counter so we can check it out. Yeah, so there are 21 unique visitors, but there are 272. So if you refresh the page a bunch, it'll actually increase the counter every time. That's super cool. I am proud of what I made today. Cool. Yeah, definitely going to continue this stream at a later time where we'll actually like create a user interface where you can modify, like dynamically modify the settings for your counter before it gets created. We'll create an interface where you can get it, you can update it, where you can see your visitors. This is great. Wow. It's not bad. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what else to say. This is fun. I'm super excited. "22 unique visitors." Okay. All right, I think I'm going to end the stream there. I will push this code up to GitHub. I'll throw a link in the description. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Thanks for your comments, participation, your ideas, your input. Much appreciated. There will be a stream soon. I don't know if there'll be one tomorrow, but there will definitely be one this weekend. More details to come. But, yeah. Awesome. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in wherever you are in the world. Have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, or night. We'll see you next time. Here's this.